Do you know how to code? Have you coded before?
Do you know what? Actually,
Or you
I
like
think I
being at
have.
coded areas?
I like
and
being
coded
at
places,
coded areas
not
and places.
coding.
But I have done some small coding. I didn't know that it was actually coding, but back in the day, I had a blog that you would put in like I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, widgets and whatever on the back end. So before coding was the thing, I too was coding. Now the advanced methods, I don't know anything about that, so I leave that to the experts.
You are not coding.
I'm not coding.
Or you
no.
know how to code, but you don't code.
I don't code.
Or you cannot code.
I cannot code.
Well, we have the experts in studio, and that's the new thing because the future is AI coding and all the issues in between. We've been joined in studio by Kong Hong, KH for short. He's the founder of Codabot Global, and Dr. Albert Mensah, a man of many parts. Thought before, he's learned before, he's lectured before, researched before, plenty things. The CEO of Codabot Ghana. Gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Doing great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ready, set, go. Is Ghana ready for coding? That's what we are asking. But first of all, gentlemen, welcome one more time.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you.
And why is Codabot concerned about all this coding for our children in Ghana? I'll start with you, Doc.
Okay, so good morning to you all viewers and those on radio listening. I would say that we live in this dispensation where the technology is basically changing things, right? We live in an era of big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Technology is moving at a rapid pace. And it would be awesome to see our students catch up. We're actually lagging behind. We are lagging behind by just huge gap in terms of distance. How do we make sure we bridge this gap? I think the way to do this would be to try to get all students in Ghana, in Africa in general, to be aware of basically this cutting edge technologies which are being currently introduced. So what we basically seek to do is, well, try to get students aware of what's the latest technologies that are out there for solving problems, what these technologies are, and then try to expose them to it, help them to build things, literally trying to raise the next generation of inventors and innovators. So we're not just about coding, which is what makes us unique. We are about trying to identify problems, leveraging science, technology, engineering, math to then address the problems.
You say we are lagging behind. We'll come there.
Okay.
Kesh, let me come to you.
Yes.
For you, you come from Asia.
Yes.
Why is Africa important to you in all of this drive?
I believe various reasons. The first and foremost is that I think Africa offers a huge opportunity because we can really take years and to build something and to grow with it.
Right.
Yeah, so I still remember that I was first reintroduced to Africa as a continent, how big it is.
Right.
When in the early 2000s, when at that time I was a mobile phone distributor, I attended in Amsterdam, a mobile conference which talks about the future of mobile phone in Africa. And the Motorola manager at the time for Africa introduced me and showed me a map of how massive Africa is, and I realized that there is a lot of this. Then 10 years ago, I met Albert when he came to Hong Kong to study for his PhD.
Right.
And him being a person who has a lot of passion for Africa, he introduced me once more and to do this. Yeah.
I see. You said, Doc, you say you were lagging behind.
Yeah.
How do you mean? How far behind are we?
Okay, I think I'm going to set a context here which will make things easy to understand. There is a popular show, right? And students love this show in Ghana. I mean, I kind of grew up watching this. That's the National Science and Maths Quiz Competition.
Right.
Probably you may have had guests on who have talked about this before. You watch the show and you see they create scenarios and they ask students to make calculations and they arrive at basically they provide theoretical answers, right? There's no real practical dimension to it.
Right.
Our students are really, really, really intelligent. Now, if you were to present them with opportunities that allows them, okay, to have hands-on practice in terms of all of these things that are presented to them, the scenarios that are presented to them, real problems.
Problem of the day.
All of that, right? Real things that they have to figure out, just leveraging science, technology, engineering, math tools around to solve this. I think this would significantly enhance our capacity. As students, I'm speaking for myself as well because I was a student before. So on their behalf, enhance our capacity as students to literally try to use all of these things that we have at our fingertips to try to solve
Cage,
problems.
what tools are we looking at? Because when you talk about AI coding, you talk about all these things, it looks cumbersome. People think, okay, we have to fix things, we have to... Is it as easy as you people make it look, or for those of us who don't do it, it is as difficult as we see it? What is it?
Well, I think besides AI is mostly written under the Python language. But as what Albert said, we offers the whole program called STEM.
Right.
Which is a combination
Science,
acronym.
technology,
Yeah, that's right.
Engineering and mathematics.
That's right. So it's not offering individual topics, but using each of these topics, relying on training the students to have computational thinking like a computer, right? So basically, that's what it is. Now, you ask a question whether it's going to be difficult. It can be difficult, obviously. That's why you need billions of dollars to make ChatGPT, for example, right? But we all have to start from the most basic.
Okay.
So the most basic will be understanding and simplifying things. That's what computational thinking means, right? You see something and you simplify.
Simplify.
That's right.
Okay.
So every student needs to simplify what they see and simplify it. And then when they have simplified, they are able to analyze, and then they can then start thinking, big words, algorithm, they start thinking a flow of how to go from point A to point B.
Okay.
So basically that's what it means. Now, when the students, we introduce this at a very young age, obviously we start with non-coding.
Right.
But we teach them the understanding, how they think. For example, we use certain we call it coding blocks, where the primary student, the K3 students will fix things. Okay. Then they will understand how gear works, the gear, and how gear can move apart, and then how they can use a battery to empower the thing to move, and then they can put in sensors, and that sensors can help them to light up the light. How when you put your hands onto it, right? There is an infrared sensor on it that will allows it to on the thing.
Right.
So they understand from that age. Then as they grow older, they learn what we call block coding, like what you just mentioned,
like
right?
what Helen did.
Yeah, that's right. She's perfect. So they how does block coding comes about? It's written maybe in C++ language, where people wrote it and then they try to make it into a widget. And for students then to drag and drop. You can use this many platforms. For example, you can use the one that is done by MIT in US, right? Which was given by Google, and this is Scratch. So using Scratch, they can make and animate stories. They can make stories out of it. So this is how it is. Now, as they grow older again, then they start learning how to use electronic sensors like controllers like microbit, and other similar stuff. And they start making stuff and they code it to make it work. So the students suddenly get very excited. So what we need to do is to make the students first to think out of the box, creatively, problem solve, collaborate. So these are all the skills that they need, and then they start to innovate. And in some schools, they even allow the students to think out of the box to solve a simple problem. And how to solve this problem or whatever the problem, and then they think of it.
I'd like to just basically piggyback on what he said. So the area of problem solving, you will be fascinated to know that we recently had a project in Kumasi, where after the students had learned kind of what we presented to them. Exactly. They had a project at the end of the day, and the project was to try to automate a trash bin. And guess what they did? They took a regular trash bin, they bought materials around, they made it smart. What it essentially does is this. It senses hand movement, and it opens and shuts automatically. And this was designed by upper elementary students. Fascinating. Nothing complicated.
Upper elementary students will be your secondary school students, or if you like,
so basically
basic school.
Basic school from grade 4 to grade
class
6.
4 to class 6.
Correct.
These are like 8-year-olds going on to 10, 11.
Correct. Correct. Fascinating.
And they did that.
They did
so
that.
you walk up with your trash to the rubbish bin, it senses your hand movement and
That's it.
opens.
Opens,
You drop
it in.
So no germs.
No germs, right there. So during time of COVID, for instance, this will be really, really great help, right, to households. So
How many days did it take for you to imbibe this knowledge in them?
So typically, probably let me just bring us back to how we deliver our models,
Right.
and then the project will then fall in. Because this was like a special project they did.
Right.
So we tend to have models which we run at schools, which will take like let's say 12 to 16 sessions.
Right.
Right. And so depending on the school's calendar, they can say you come twice a week or you come once a week. And so if it's once a week, that's going to be like 12 to 16 weeks. If it's twice a week, that's probably going to be achieved in like 8 weeks, and you're done with that. At the end of the project, students will be exposed to some of these state-of-the-art technologies, and then the question will then be, okay, well, what problems do you see around you, and what do you think you can do using the knowledge you've acquired? And so then we'll give them this special project. The special project's actually fast-paced. They have the tools already, right? So it's a question of, okay, well, this is the problem. What do we think we can do? And so they look at all the items that they need. They procure the items. And you'll be really, really happy to know that with this auto bin projects that we did, it took just a day for the students to build that. 1 day? Yeah, just one day.
Under 24 hours, you mean?
Correct. To build
That is basically after they have learned the coding part.
Okay.
Say, for example,
so there's a theoretical aspect
right.
and then the practical
application,
aspect.
yes.
And then they apply the knowledge that they got.
So, for example, on the smart bin, right? So the first thing in the computational thinking they have to think about is what kind of problem they need to solve.
Okay.
So maybe because of COVID, maybe you do not want to touch, right?
Yeah.
So then the second thing they have to think is, okay, what do you need to do to open the thing, right? So you don't want to touch it, so you need to open it.
Right.
So what makes it open? All right, so I need a motor. Okay, so that's one element of it.
Yeah.
Then the second element is I need an eye
Right.
to be able to sense
my finger.
your motion,
Like a
yeah?
sensor, yeah.
Your motion, yeah. And then that's the second one. If they like, they can even put a camera, and then they do an AI to recognize which kind of product needs to thrown here. Is it a recyclable product? It's not a recyclable product.
Organic, metal.
That's right. So, for example, if beans, then or tea leaves, then you have to open this bean. The other one is open the other bean. So these are all the thinking they have to do. Then they have to. Then typically, I'm just trying to break it down for you. Is that then they have to put the different blocks of how this thing will move, right? Then they start applying what they have learned.
Okay.
What is the coding that they have learned to move this module, this motor, how to code for this what you call the sensor to work, right? And all these things. Yeah. So they learn a little bit of this, and they use mathematics like if or else kind of theory, where if this happened, then this will happen, right? And to do that, they put in some numbers.
KH, I know that the educational authorities in Ghana have been big on talking about IT and all of that. It's STEM schools here and there. How long will it take? Because Dr. Mensah mentioned that we're actually lagging behind.
Yes.
How long would it take before we come, even try to come at par to even think of competing?
I think there's no such a hard line, right? But I give an example that even in the United States, right, they take many years to apply. And this, you are talking of people, unless you are in Silicon Valley, other parts of it, they really don't know that, right? So I think it will take 10 years, 20 years, depending. But it's not like, I need to be 20 years before I reach this. No, it's continuously growing, continuously applying and exposing yourself to this kind of thing. Just like, for example, as I mentioned, 2004, I was in Amsterdam talking about the mobile telephony future in Africa, the whole of Africa, right? And now everybody has a phone,
That's
correct?
Right. That's right.
And then your kids will probably have that, and then your kids will probably be looking at iPad and playing with iPad. So they will be very much advanced, and before you know it, they know much more than you.
There are those who also make mockery of our system. For example, they say, in Japan you go and the children are fixing laptops, they are fixing watches, and we're going to import them and bring them here. Our children are dancing Namo Yelawi. I mean, people make mockery of that. First of all, is that true?
I think if you go to Japan, they say the same thing.
They say the same.
Except that Japan's education is unique in the sense that they do not have exam when they are young. But in most countries, we all come from a colonial influence,
Right.
and we have been trained to read books, right?
Right,
and
right,
memorize,
right.
and sit for exams,
Right.
you know. So that have to slowly change.
It has to change.
Slowly
But in
change, yeah.
Japan, how has that helped? That the kids don't write exam. So what I know for exams at the basic level is that right from the get-go, it teaches you to compete. It teaches you to, hold on to stuff. If you have Apple or whatever it is, you've learned something. That sharing ideas and collaborating, it becomes a problem.
Right.
Right from the get-go.
Yeah.
In Japan, I'm sure that the children think differently in terms of, let's share ideas, let's do this, let's collaborate, let's work together.
Yeah.
Let's do. Is that the case?
Well, not only in Japan, if you are saying that way, most Western education will tend to go on that basis, where they allow the students not so much on examinations. Now, I'm an Asian, I'm Chinese.
Right.
I send my children in Hong Kong to international school. The only reason I do that is because I don't want to sit with them every day and
Right.
try to teach them to pass the exam, which the local school will do, right?
Right.
But in the international school, they have that. But still, being Chinese, when I meet the teacher during twice a year, and they are so creative in their words, they always say your children are very good. Hey, hang on, man, tell me about the truth, that kind of thing.
Right.
And when is your exam? When are my children going to sit for exam? You understand what I'm trying to say? We tend to, without realizing it, move towards that.
Right.
But if you do not have exam, then you are asked to prove yourself.
Okay.
And how do you prove it? Well, by giving you a project and by asking you to use that project to do it.
So you're asking for us to move away from the test score approach to a practical approach, because that's where the world is going.
And also general approach.
Okay.
That means, for example, we in an American school, what they'll do is that they will ask you to, every children, beginning of the year and end of the year, to do a test. Okay, they call it a standard test. All right.
SAT.
No, not that one.
Okay.
They are also called SAT, but it's not that SAT. But they do that, and you have to answer questions. Within a certain period of time, every student will sit in front of a computer, and they will answer the
It's an
questions.
aptitude test of a sort.
Right. So they answer until they cannot answer. So there's no grade.
Right.
If you are really smart, you could be answering. If you are in P3, grade 3, you may be answering grade 7 questions.
Right.
If you are really good.
Yeah.
So you just answer until you stop. Until you cannot answer, you stop. Then there will be a point system. It's very general questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. Doc.
I just wanted to add to that. I do think that so what we're trying to push here, right, is to proliferate STEM, right, science, technology, engineering, and math. We're not saying, let this substitute for what we currently have.
Okay.
This can be used as an additional tool.
Right.
I'm going to basically provide an example where, for instance, a tool like STEM can help to actually make students understand the concept we teach in our classrooms better.
Right.
So think of biology class, right?
Right.
Human anatomy.
Right.
Teaching basically the human body, the organs, and so on and so forth. If you were to leverage a tool like VR, right, using virtual reality environment, that can allow the students to actually zoom in, go into the part
See
of the
how
body.
the heart is pumping.
Exactly.
Or how the pancreas is secreting
Yes.
some insulin.
Exactly. And this virtual experience makes them feel and makes them experience something that's close to reality.
But we don't have a lot of these STEM schools. I mean,
We do
literally
not.
we're now piloting.
Correct.
That's why I asked you, how long is it going to take for us to, because we're just doing the STEM schools as model schools. But should this be the mainstay for us? And then you can have the elementary schools as,
Correct.
the alternative.
Correct.
Or what do you propose?
So significantly, we have an issue here, and the issue is that lack of infrastructure across schools, right, in the country,
Right.
makes it really difficult to roll out something like this, right?
Right.
So we still have schools that will have challenges with electricity, right? They do not have basic ICT facilities.
Right.
If you want to impose STEM on everyone, that's going to be infeasible.
Right.
And so, kind of our approach is this: we, as persons from the private sector, want to partner with the government,
Right.
and we can run STEM centers
Okay.
in various districts or regions, and schools that are from the public sector, for instance,
Right.
that do not have these facilities, right? Students from there could then visit the center, and have access.
Okay. So you're going to create centers that on Saturday, Sunday I can bring
Exactly.
or bring
Or after school.
Or Helen can come and learn more than widgets.
So, correct. Correct.
One of the things, like you said, it's going to take a long time,
Right,
actually,
right.
to immerse into the whole society
right.
and the whole education curriculum.
Right.
And of course, in every school, there is a broad spectrum of ability to learn
Right.
among the students
Right.
itself, right? So I will say, what I see is this: the school should introduce something that is general, where everyone can understand and have a taste of it, and then later on, from the school will then select a small group of people that have a special interest in coding, have a special interest in gaming,
Okay.
have a special interest in robotics, and then they pull these groups out into a special class, and then a deeper dive into it. Yeah.
Thank you. KH, we're grateful as always. I wish you all the best. And Dr. Albert Mensah, we're grateful. Codabot Global, Codabot Ghana. We're grateful that you joined us. Helen, so we're going coding, right?
We're going coding.
When the facility comes up, we'll go and code. I'm
Next
sure that
time
you
you-
want to code on maybe your teacup, how to make you coffee while you
That would
while you
be
host the show.
exciting. A smart coffee
smart
cup.
coffee cup.
All I do is, I don't want to do anything. I need
Yeah,
a robot
just-
to bring the coffee, the milk. I need to do the whole thing. If I can
really
do
happy
that.
that point, right?
Okay, we'll collaborate with Codabot and they'll build one for us, a coffee machine.
That would be coffee bot.
In fact, you know what would be good if we can be here without being here. So on a day like this, we're in bed, but the show still goes on. I know there are mechanisms for that. So Codabot, we're going to have to chat.
Great,
For sure.
Great. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
A big shouts to all of you who made time to listen to the show. Let's say a quick happy birthday to a special